Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels, and thank you to our supporters Mr Fothergill Seeds and Cobra Garden. Today I'm going to be catching up with some jobs in the garden and doing a little bit of rose care. I love this time of the year because we're starting to get some produce out of the garden now, so it means the work we've done is really paying off. And in this bed, this is the legume bed, peas, beans, we're starting to harvest. The peas are Monge 2 that we grow in here, and this is a row at the back of me here, but these are some that we did in the container just to show that you can grow them in pots. And these are flowering and producing these lovely Monge 2 now, which are delicious. You can eat them raw, you can steam them, and the more you pick, the more it will flower, the more you will get. The other thing we're getting now are the broad beans, and this is a dwarf variety called Robin Hood. Never gets much taller than about 18 inches and produces loads and loads of these lovely pods in there, and I just love it when you pop one open and they're just absolutely delicious to eat. They are, so eat them in the garden as a bit of a snack. There is still time to sow some things, certainly not the broad beans, but if you've got some pea seed, Monge 2, or the ordinary early peas, then if you put those in now, you'll be eating those in August and September, so there is time. And one final thing with these is, don't forget the tops of the broad beans. We can snip those out or just pinch them off, and that deters black fly, but you can eat those, just steam them, and they're really nice. I like them with scrambled egg, just stirred through some scrambled egg. They've got a bit of a sort of a peaty, spinachy flavour to them, so don't waste the tops. But there is still time to sow other bits in the garden, and I'll show you just over there. As well as the peas and the Monge 2, there are lots of other things we can still be sowing in the vegetable garden and in containers. Early carrots, you know, the baby type carrots, beetroot, we can sow lettuce, salad crops, and these leafy crops like spinach and pak choi we can sow right the way through until August. I find they work better in a bit of cool, shady soil, so if you've got somewhere in the garden that doesn't get the midday sun, that is ideal. And what I've done, I've just raked this soil over. I've used my trowel just to take out a shallow drill there, just about ½ an inch deep, and then what I'm going to do is just sow these very thinly along the row. So it's just a case of, this is the pak choi, I'm just going to sow them thinly. We don't want them too close because they do make quite a biggish sized plant. So once you've sown them along there, it's just a case then of covering them over with the soil, put a label in, give them a drink, and they'll germinate quickly. And then we can thin them out to a couple of inches apart later on to give them room to grow. So get sowing, there's still lots you can put in the garden. Roses are lovely at this time of the year. You can get shrub roses, bush roses, climbers, ramblers, all sorts of roses. But what we grow them for, of course, are these beautiful flowers. And this is a climber that I'm taking up over this arch. This one is called Zephyrin Druin, which is one of my favourites. It's got no thorns on it, and it's got the most wonderful scent. Really, really lovely, especially in the evening time. Now, to keep your roses flowering, one of the things you can do that's really simple at this time of the year is just deadhead on a regular basis. And that is simply a case of removing the old flowers, and that encourages lots of new flowers and keeps them flowering all the way through the summer. And there are two ways you can do it, and it doesn't matter which one you use. This, for example, here we can see on this little cluster here, we've got the main flowers gone, but then we've got two buds that are going to open. So what I'm going to do with this one is very simple. I'm just going to take hold of that and literally snap it off and get rid of it like that, and then it means that these other rose buds will develop and they'll flower over the coming week, and then when they finish we can get rid of them. The other way you can do it is like we've got on this branch here, where all the flowers have finished at the same time, and you can see we've got all these dead flower heads here. So rather than snap those off individually, I'm going to use my secateurs and I'm going to prune that back to a bud. It doesn't matter where, it can be just below the flowers or back further down the branch, and I'm just going to cut that off to there, And what will happen is that will be got rid of, but from where we've pruned it back, the bud will grow and that will produce some flowers in about 6 weeks time. So it just means that we get that continuation of flowers all through the summer. But there's other things we can do as well. We need to look for any pests and diseases on the roses to make sure that we keep them healthy. We do need to keep an eye on our roses to keep them healthy, to keep them growing well and producing these lovely blooms. This is a David Austin rose here, and they can be subject to various pests and diseases. When it comes to diseases, black spot, rust and mildew are the main diseases they get, and they're very easy to identify. Black spot has black spots on the leaves, mildew is a white powder, and rust has orange pustules and spots. So they're easy to look at and find. To control them, if you've only got a few leaves that are affected, then I would just pick them off and put them in the dustbin. Never put them on the compost heap because that will spread the spores. But if you've got a bad infestation on the rose, then you might need to use a fungicide on them. And there are rose fungicides that are very effective and safe to use, and they will prevent the disease getting any worse. When it comes to pests, there are a few. Aphids can be a big problem early on in the season, but normally by this time of the year, they've gone, or the birds have eaten quite a lot of them away. And one that is becoming a problem more and more, certainly in my garden, is this. It's caused by a sawfly, which is a little fly lays its eggs on it, specific to roses, and it causes the leaves to roll. It is a leaf rolling sawfly. And inside this rolled leaf, there's very often a little grub, a little caterpillar-like grub in there that just feeds on the leaf, and when it's fed it falls to the floor and pupates for next year. Spraying isn't effective on these anyway, so the advice is if you've only got a few leaves that are damaged on the rose bush, just pinch them off, put them in the dustbin. If you've got lots, don't take them all off because that in a way weakens the plant more than the sawfly. But what you can do in the winter is just rake and hoe and disturb the soil shallowly below the rose to disturb the pupae, and then the birds will come in and eat them and hopefully prevent the problem being too much of a problem for next year. So just keep an eye on them. But there's one more thing that we do need to do, and that is to feed them to make sure we get lots of new growth and blooms later on in the season. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and thank you for continuing to share and tell your friends about it. If you've got a comment or a question you want to ask, then can you do it on Facebook, and that way everybody can see it and benefit from it. We'll be back again soon with lots more hints and tips from the garden, so we'll see you then. Bye.